Bonjour and welcome to this week's French lesson with me, Jennifer, your French teacher in the south of France. This week we're going to talk about how to make commands in French. So the command form is called l'impératif, the imperative. We can just call it the command form to remind you what it means. So if you want to give a command in French, it really happens all the time. Think about the number of times a day you tell someone to do something. And it's not rude, you're just making either a request or a command. In French, you only have 3 forms of giving a command. In English, it's the same. We really only have 2. We either give it in the you form because you're telling someone to do something, or you're including yourself in the command or the request and you're really making a suggestion, right? So in French, if you're giving a command or making a request to one person and you're familiar with that person, then you use the to form of the verb. Simple as that. You just leave the to off and you use the to form of the present tense of that verb. Now, if you're making a request to a group of people or someone you don't know very well, then you're going to use the vous form of the verb. And if you're making a suggestion and you're included in that and you want to say, let's do something, then that's when you use the nous form of the verb. So just a couple of examples with regular verbs, and most verbs are regular in the imperatives, so that's always a good thing. Let's say you want to use an IR verb, and so you use the verb finir, right? It's one of the first ones that people learn. So you want to tell someone, finish your homework. In the tu form, you just say, finis tes devoirs, F-I-N-I-S. You leave the tu off. If you want to tell a group of people, finish your homework, Finissez vos devoirs. You want to make a suggestion and tell your friends, hey guys, let's finish our homework. Finissons nos devoirs. So that's easy. The same is true for RE verbs. Let's take the verb répondre, for example. If you want to tell someone in the tu form, answer the question. Then you use the verb répondre. Réponds à la question. R-E, accent aigu, P-O-N-D-S. Réponds à la question. Vous form, répondez à la question. The nous form, let's answer the question. Répondons à la question. Now, I kept the ER verbs for last because there's one little thing that you'll have to remember when you're writing the imperative form of ER verbs, regular ER verbs. That's, for example, let's take the verb parler. Parler français. You want to tell someone in the tu form, speak French. You'll tell him or her, parle français. So it sounds normal, but when you write it, you need to make sure that you leave the S off because the tu form of the present tense verb parler, y'all know it's spelled P-A-R-L-E-S. So just for various grammatical reasons that have to do with pronunciation and stuff like that, you need to leave the S off, and that goes for all ER verbs in the tu form. Don't get confused, you don't leave off the S for any other kind of verb. D'accord? So, parle français, or if you're talking to a group of people, speak French, parlez français, that's the vous form, or you're making a suggestion, parlons français, let's speak French, parlons, parlons français. D'accord? So, there's another verb that ends in ER, but it's really irregular. Can you think of which one I'm talking about? It doesn't fall into the group of ER verbs. It's the verb aller. So if you got that, bravo. The verb aller means to go. It's really irregular. What's the conjugation of the verb aller? Let's do it together. Je vais, tu vas, il va, nous allons, vous allez, ils vont. That's right. So what's the tu form? How's it spelled? V-A-S, right? It has an S on it. Even though it's an irregular verb, when you're giving a command in the tu form using the verb aller, you need to leave the S off. Again, you won't hear it when you're speaking because we say va, whether there's an S or not, but when you're writing, be careful. So you want to tell someone in the tu form, go to school. You say, va à l'école. VA, or to a group of people, allez à l'école. You're saying, let's go to school. Allons à l'école. Voila, okay? If you want to make any of those commands negative, all you have to do is put the ne pas around the verb. Negative commands, that's how it always works. You put the ne and the pas around the verb. So, don't finish your homework. Ne finis pas tes devoirs. Don't speak French. Ne parle pas français. Don't go to school. Ne va pas à l'école. D'accord? All right, so now I have to talk to you about some irregular verbs in the command form because they're verbs that we use a lot. The verbs être and avoir are the two verbs that I want to talk to you about today. There are a few others, but être and avoir are the most essential because we use them all the time. Think about the number of times you tell someone to be a certain way. So let's look at the verb être to begin with. You want to tell someone, for example, be good. Be good. Behave yourself. In French, you don't use the adjective bon when you tell someone to be good. You actually use sage, S-A-G-E. And if you look that up in the dictionary, it means wise. So when you tell a child, for example, oh, be good today, sois sage, sois. Maybe you've never heard that form of the verb être before, but it's spelled S-O-I-S, sois sage. D'accord? So maybe it does look familiar and you're saying, where have I seen S-O-I-S before? Well, if you're a little bit more advanced in French, you may recognize sois from the present tense subjunctive. I'm not going to get into that today. That's for another lesson. But if it looks familiar, that's where you've seen it. In the vous form, you want to tell someone, be good. You want to tell a group of people, be good. Soyez sage. And that's spelled S-O-Y-E-Z. And then the new form, so the suggestion where you're included, let's be good. Soyons sages, S-O-Y-O-N-S. Another example in the negative, okay? Ne sois pas égoïste. You know what that means? Égoïste, egotistical, that's what it sounds like. It means selfish. Ne sois pas égoïste. Don't be selfish. Ne soyez pas égoïste. Ne soyons pas égoïstes. The verb avoir. Now, this is another one that's very important. It has a really irregular form in the command form, in the imperatif. It also uses the present subjunctive forms of the verb. So again, if you've gotten that far in French, then these might look familiar to you. If you want to tell someone, have a little patience, in the tu form, et un peu de patience. And it's spelled A-I-E-S. Lots of vowels, but it's just pronounced A. In the vous form, have a little patience. Speaking to a group of people. Ayez un peu de patience, s'il vous plaît. A-Y-E-Z. And in the new form, let's have a little patience. Ayons un peu de patience. A-Y-O-N-S. So those are some forms that you're just going to have to memorize, but it's not that much. You can do it. Now there's one more thing, and that's when you're using reflexive verbs and you're giving a command using a reflexive verb. So do you remember what I'm talking about when I say reflexive verbs? Those are the ones in the infinitive form that have se, S-E, in front of them, and then well, let me just give you an example. The verb se coucher, what does that mean? It means to go to bed. So if I say, I'm going to bed, just in the regular present tense, I say, je me couche. In the tu form, tu te couches. Il se couche. Nous nous couchons. Vous vous couchez. Il se couche. Now remember, in the command form, you're only concerned with the tu, vous, and nous form of this verb. So tu te couches is the tu form. You're going to bed. If you want to tell someone, go to bed, here's what's going to happen. In the tu form, the te, T-E, your reflexive pronoun, is going to change to toi, T-O-I. And rather than placing it before the verb, you're going to take your verb, which in this case is an ER verb, coucher, so you know you have to take off the S. You're going to take your verb, couche, C-O-U-C-H-E, put a hyphen, and add toi to it. couche-toi. And then for the vous form, in the regular present tense, it's vous vous couchez. You are going to bed. Again, you have an understood you, so you don't need the subject pronoun vous. All you need is the reflexive pronoun. You're going to take your verb, coucher, C-O-U-C-H-E-Z, add a hyphen, and stick your pronoun on there, your reflexive pronoun, which is vous. So go to bed, couchez-vous. Let's go to bed. Couchons-nous. Couchons hyphen nous. So remember that toi, vous, and nous, in fact, those are your reflexive pronouns, because when you're dealing with pronouns in the command form, you still have to keep them with the verb as part of the command. The only thing you get rid of is the subject, just like in English. If you want to make a reflexive command or a command using a reflexive verb negative, then you follow the same rules as usual. Let's take our example, couche-toi. Couche-toi, go to bed. If you think about the way that you say that, just in the regular present tense, you go to bed, tu te couches, take off the tu, because that's your subject, we don't need it in a command, and you just put the ne pas around the pronoun, which is te, T-E, and the verb, couche, still spelled C-O-U-C-H-E, without the S on it, because that's the rule for ER verbs, and you say, ne te couche pas. So when you're dealing with negation and reflexive verbs in the command form, you just follow the regular pattern. The te doesn't change to toi, it doesn't come after the verb with a hyphen, it still comes right before the verb. Ne te couche pas. So the vous form would be ne vous couchez pas. Don't go to bed, to a group of people. Or you're included, let's not go to bed. Ne nous couchons pas. Voilà. So that's how you do it. I hope that this lesson on giving commands in French has been helpful to you. Try out for yourself down in the comments. Let me see what you can come up with. And I'll be back next week with another French lesson, as always, on Tuesdays. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you enjoy getting a new French lesson every single Tuesday. Also have a newsletter that's new, started at this month. It comes out on Thursdays. You can register for that. You can sign up. And the code for that, the link you have to follow is down in the description of this video. And why not join us on Facebook? That's always a good idea. All right, I'll see you guys next week. And until then, bonne continuation. Au revoir.